Yep, Twitch has all been going for the last 5-10 minutes.
Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the Scrumcast over at HandCannonOnline.com, where we try to be the Ragnarok and not the Roll. I am your host, Goris, and with me, as always, is the press ganger formerly known as the guy, Mr. Dallas Johnson.
Yo.
I've got our Canadian troll, Fraser for DeffHeadDice on all things social media.
That was both the best and the worst intro you've done in a while. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I was trying not to laugh too hard at it.
Good, come on.
No, I agree. It was fantastic. It was both the best and the worst. It was twofer.
I'm glad I can disappoint and please all of you at the same time. That sounds great. And with us again is our UK troll, Rockar, Mike Davis. Welcome.
Morning / evening / night, whichever. It's on the blur right now. So
basically four time zones that we're representing right now. So it could be beer 30 anywhere, is what I know. Speaking of which, all right. So this week we've got some list discussion coming up. We've all had a little bit of time to kick around a few games, get some ideas out into the ether, find out how the meta feels. But first, I'm going to kick it over to Dallas because we got a little bit of news to talk about, and it's more local events for there.
Local? It's the whole state of Utah. Gosh.
It is local.
Well, it's our attempt at taking place of giving another option to the Intermountain Cup. It's Salt City Gladiator Games is a board game convention here in Farmington, Utah. It's just about 20 minutes north of Salt Lake. And during that event, Friday of that event, we'll be doing some small tournaments and battle box games and demos and stuff. And then Saturday's the big one. That's the Utah Open. There's a trophy that goes from store to store in Utah. It's kind of a Store Wars thing, and that's big. We're hoping to get enough people to qualify. And then Sunday is just kind of open play. I think they have a hardcore going on that day as well. So lots of War Machine games and board games to be played. July 15th, 16th, 17th.
And what's the name of the store hosting?
It's Salt City Gladiator Games. It's actually out at the fairgrounds in Farmington. So it is not at a store.
So come on.
There is a hosting store. Demolition Games in Salt Lake is actually running the Utah Open. So
there we go. I knew it
was... Sorry, Adam. Don't kill me. He doesn't listen anyways.
That is unfortunate.
He's just getting into trolls. We'll bring him around. That's
right. I mean, I guess he has already had enough of listening to you talk. So.
Hey, lucky sucker. You can only have too much of a good thing, right? On that note, we're still looking for a metal blitzer. We're willing to pay. So if anyone has a relatively decent-looking metal blitzer, please contact me. thegreatblah@TrollbloodScrum.com. Metal blitzers.
Mine's pink.
If you're willing to part with it, it still counts.
All right, that's it. If you're looking for one, I have one of those abominations there somewhere up in my shelves. I can look for it.
It costs more to ship it to me than it would.
Yeah, for the
probably not far off it.
Yeah, I still have a metal blitzer and a regular one. I like them both. Plan on running them both at some point too, because double blitzers are going to be a thing, I think.
Man, there's some serious shine off of my lights.
See, that's why I don't let the head dip too low.
I'm just glad we can finally see your face.
No, that's terrible. I should just go back to the screenshot.
I do miss
you
the
have a
span
fantastic haircut.
All right, guys. So as I hinted at earlier, we were going to talk lists today. So we each got something that we've been toying around with. We're going to go ahead and go list by list. Tell everybody what it is, give it a little discussion, and maybe even if anybody's interested, if you're in the Twitch chat, please, if you have any questions about why the list is built, why it is, or thoughts about how you could tweak it, maybe sort of for your own playstyle, just send it over, and Fraser will go ahead and field those, and we'll go from there. With that being said, I will go ahead and start with Mike because I think he has our first edition of a Ragnar list. Mike, go ahead and take it away.
Well, I haven't had the chance to actually play it because, admittedly, the majority of my playtest efforts at the moment have been with my Legion, which I'm taking to tournaments. But I've been playing around with what I actually want from a Ragnar list, and essentially, I want something that can hit hard and fast, but also be pretty durable. And so I've gone with Ragnar with a Rune Bearer, and then his battle group is made up of a Glacier King, a Mauler, and a Pyre Troll. And then you've got a minimum Krill Stone with the Elder, a unit of Fire Eaters, full Fen Blades with a unit attachment. Essentially, it leaves you with 6 floating points, which, for now, I've gone with a Fellcaller hero and a Swamp Gobbler Chef, but a couple of more solo options open up from minions if you take a Kithkar rather than the Fellcaller. Depends on what you ultimately you're looking for from him. So the list itself hits pretty hard and very fast. With the Mauler there, you still have the ability to put a +5 strength swing on any of your models, including the Glacier King. And under the feet with armor 21, the Glacier King will be extremely hard to take down.
I like it, honestly. It feels kind of like a Runes of War replacement, a little bit, where it's meant to be, meant to take up a good amount of board space, be hard to remove, be very annoying to deal with, and then have a lot of offensive output on the other side of it.
Yeah, the only real downside to the list is there isn't much of a ranged game to it. Your only real ranged game is the Glacier King, and sort of a short range game with the Pyre Troll and the Fire Eaters.
General thing is terrible, to be honest. So right now, the way that most games seem to shake out, at least as far as I've seen from other people, is that you've got either a shift towards guns or a shift towards jacks, and one or the other will benefit this list, greatly. Obviously, the list against jacks is where you're going to shine. So the lack of a gun isn't really bad there. So depending on what you pair this with, this list actually is going to be really good against somebody who can deal with that range game, i.e. a Gunny or a number of others that could potentially fight against it. What I'm hoping, and I had this discussion just recently, is that you will start to see a move towards more combined arms types armies, which makes your list perform even better because you have just enough skew with a little bit of utility to be useful in a lot of situations.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping for from the list, because I'm still a fan of the Glacier King, even though he's lost just a tiny bit of shine of what he had in Mark II, but he's still excellent in Mark III. The stuff that he got made up for the shorter range on his Snowfall ability. So overall, I like where the Glacier King is at, and he was the main piece I wanted to have in the army.
Makes sense. Dallas, what do you think about it?
Sorry, I was muted and on a different screen. Actually, my list is pretty similar to his, only mine's not quite as durable, but I'm hoping it's a little faster. Because I also built a Ragnar list, and I have lots of the same elements in my list.
Segue.
Yeah.
Hey! Well, so Ragnar, of course. I have a Mauler, Ruck, and a Slag Troll as my battle group. I went with a Fellcaller hero, 2 Fenblade Kithkars, full Krillstone and Elder, 2 units of Fire Eaters, and a full unit of Fenblades with the Officer and Drummer. So, again, not as durable as Mike's, but hopefully a little quicker. A little easier to run in and jam, and the whole idea is to be super aggressive and survive via the feet if you can, and then pretty much go to town on them with Rock's Animus or the Mauler's Animus plus Pulverizer. And any of those war beasts are hitting pretty friggin' hard. So if you can survive on the way in, which you should be able to do, it could be bad news bears.
Indeed. I was kind of actually baffled if you were talking about faster. What was it? Was there a consideration for an Axer in the list?
A little bit. I mean, I could always drop the stone. Is there enough if I drop the stone? No. Yeah, with the stone and the Elder, I can fit an Axer in.
Yeah, it's 9 points, right?
I don't really need the stone. So then I'd add an Axer. And that gives me 2 points left for a mercenary solo unit. Probably the Swamp Gobbers or the Feral Geist. And I'd probably go Swamp Gobbers just because I like the little bit of help hiding things going in. So there you go, Axer.
Indeed. So let's talk a second about Ragnar, because he's been one of the ones that I think we've been slightly silent on, mostly because I personally haven't played him much, and he hasn't really been on my radar. I kind of feel like he's gonna be the butcher, like, of our faction, right? He's gonna be a very pointed, relatively easy to use warlock who's quite potent, with not a whole lot of nuance, but is just really good across the board.
Well, he's got, so a couple of the things that he's got going for him that really helps a lot is with his melee weapon, if you get a crit when you hit with it, you knock everything in a 4-inch AoE down, which is really nice. And then he also can do that with Shockwave, with his spell Shockwave. So he's got a couple different ways to knock crap down. And with Pulverizer, he's one of the few ways you can buff any model, not just a War Beast, into hitting harder than it does. So there's something there. So,
and I know for me,
like you said, relatively straightforward, easy to use. Go ahead, Fraser.
Say, and the few games I've played with the Battle Box games, Earth Sanctuary, being able to give dug in for one focus has really helped protecting some of the models, giving that cover, and not being able to be don't getting blast damage as well. So I found that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, especially on Ragnar himself. You know, having a caster that you can reliably always have at like defense 18 against the vast majority of shooting and magic, independent of terrain, is pretty significant.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. I'm looking forward to testing him out eventually when, you know, they release him in a blister and not in a battle box, because I don't need all those extra models. I'm actually curious, Fraser, since you're still sort of the newest player among all of us, like, what has your experience been for Ragnar?
I've played, well, I'm 0 for 2. One was because I was so proud of myself pre-measuring against my son's Kador box, where I figured, oh, you can only charge this far, went about half an inch, and then forgot his feet gave him 2 inches of speed, so he came up and pummeled me. So that one wasn't my most stellar moment, having my 15-year-old just hand my ass back to me. But so far, my biggest challenge from him is the fact that Hex Blast, Pulverizer, and Shockwave of unit are all cost-free spells. So you've got a heavy list of, and the only thing that is cost 1 is the Earth Sanctuary. So you have to do a bit of, make sure you're keeping track of your Fury usage for that. That so far I think has been the biggest challenge. I mean, in battle boxes you don't have to worry about filling up the stone, but I wonder if it's going to be a challenge to use your magic and be able to fill your stone relatively quickly, unless there's unless the tier list winds up giving you, or theme list winds up giving you something a little bit down the road.
Yeah, I feel like the Rune Bear is sort of a required piece for his lists that are not battle box. You know, it's having the Fury efficiency to do more than one spell a turn will be important, and then on top of that, when you can account for, you can account for having addition of Pulverizer or Blast or Shockwave. You know, having the Fury efficiency is important.
Agreed.
Yeah, same here, very much so. That's why I really didn't want to spend the 4 points for a Rune Bearer with Ragnar, but he just felt like such a requirement for his intended Fury expenditure that I didn't really have much of a choice.
I actually felt the other way around. I think even with the Rune Bearer, I still want to keep a couple Fury on him, and so I don't really need the Rune Bearer because I might boost a hit or boost damage, but I'm still going to keep 1 or 2 Fury, so I'm not going to cast a second spell anyhow. I don't know. Excuse me.
I'll have to see how it feels when I start to play him. Right now, he seems slightly underwhelming, but that's probably just due to not using him and not seeing the potential on the table. I like his spell list and everything. It's just I'm not seeing it quite yet. All right, so we've talked Ragnar. Let's get a fresh perspective. Fraser, what would you like to talk about as far as lists today?
So the list I did, and this is just me picking models, one that I own and two that I want to see if I want to try together. Ones I've owned but never played. I put it together a Gunbjorn list, and this is so it's Gunbjorn with a Glacier King and Dozer and Smig, a War Wagon because you keep talking about how good they are, and I have the model and I love it and I want to get it on the table. Dunyan Knot, 2 units of Fire Eaters, and the Krillstone with the Elder. So in my sort of thought when I was putting this together, I like having Snipe on the Glacier King to get that nice 14-inch or 16-inch 3 shots. War Wagon, go back and listen to the previous couple episodes about what you said. That was the reason I included those guys. You can keep the Fire King Eaters in front of that, just in front of the Glacier King to give them the concealment. And the Dunyan Knot is just to make sure you have any kind of dice manipulation or rerolls as you need them. So that was sort of my initial list I put together for Gunbjorn.
Have you had a chance to play it yet?
I have not. The only game actually was the only game I've played recently was just actually I haven't played a game in the last couple of weeks. I've watched games on Home Machine, but I haven't actually had a chance to play in the last couple of weeks, unfortunately.
I really love the list. Gunbjorn offers a whole lot of resiliency on the way in, which is important for trolls right now since we lost some of our tough shenanigans. One thing I think you shouldn't discount, though, is Snipe on the War Wagon is almost more valuable than it is on the Glacier King, because the Glacier King can't aim and be engaged at the same time. So even when the lines have finally clashed, having the Snipe on an Arcing Fire model is really important. It means that your opponent simply can't hide things you want to shoot at from you, and then when you pile on top of that you have the Knot, that means that his accuracy basically goes up effectively 2 points because you get the reroll. I mean, it's something in there, right? Close to that is 1.5. Dallas, you know the numbers, right?
Sorry, I had myself muted again. I do know the numbers. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the accuracy increase of the rerolls. I'm not doing it or not.
Oh, it's about +2.
I thought it was about +2, which is good.
Yeah. It's the exact number is 1.8. But it depends on how many you reroll. But it's +2 is a good rule of thumb for that.
Which is quite excellent. So then you've got this accurate piece that's there. Did you say you had a stone on the list, Fraser?
Couldn't get to the mute fast enough. Yes, I do have the stone in there as well. But I can take it out because I don't know if the value of the stone, if I'm planning on shooting things from a distance, if I need the stone there. But it's.
I honestly think that the stone is really useful. One, it discourages assassination runs on Gunny because most of the time he'll be behind a wall, and he'll also have the stone aura, so he'll be freaking 19, 18, or whatever.
1918, yeah.
Range. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. And then you take into account that you can lay that footprint out. 9 inches is pretty big when you consider all those huge bases. And so if your opponent doesn't have a really great way to reach beyond and get to that stone, you have a really safe way of keeping your models at armor 21 almost across the board. So the War Wagon doesn't die in an engagement unless your opponent commits heavy to it, and then that's a huge mistake on your opponent's part, because then if they do that, it's just left in the open, and the Glacier King just pushes its ass wherever the hell it wants to, and then it never sees engagement again. Furthermore, you've got that control piece, because most infantry aren't going to have a really easy time taking the War Wagon out, which means that your Glacier King dictates when and where you get engaged by heavy. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless, and you're talking about also Gunbjorn who could cycle Snipe on either one of those guys. Like, you could basically just have, Fort fucking Awesome in the middle of the table, Gunbjorn behind a wall, with the War Wagon and the Glacier King on either side, and you basically just get to run the table. And then you've also got to deal with Fire Eaters that are out in front there, and your opponent's like, well, this is a nightmare because I don't have anything that out-threats Fire Eaters. I mean, even the longest of... I think Long Gunners are probably one of the only things that out-threat Fire Eaters, and I don't think you're still going to see them for quite some time before people start to get used to Cygnar. I like the list. I like it quite a bit, and if I actually had a Glacier King, I would play it. My list are slightly different. I think you're going to have a blast. Mike, what do you think about the list?
My list is very, very similar to Fraser's, but Mine, I said, because Gumbjorn is one of my favorite casters from Mark II, so he was one of the first casters really I was working on in Mark III. Mine's very similar. Gunny with the Glacier King, Dozer, and Smig, but I've got a Pyre Troll in there as well. Still with the War Wagon, but then the list is shored up then with double Fire Eaters, and then the minimum Creel Stone with the Elder. So very similar sort of play style to Fraser's. The Pyre Troll, as well as being a great enabler for the Fire Eaters, is also a great source for Lucky Shot, because he's still a Rat 7 with AoE 3, range 10, potentially 14, that automatically sets stuff on fire. And he is a great counterpoint in the list as well then for like certain lists against certain factions like Menoth and Legion to discourage assassinations on Gunny.
I could definitely see it. Dallas, what do you think?
You gotta stop asking me questions when I'm looking away with mute on.
Stop looking at other crap and pay attention to our podcast, Dallas.
I have no recollection of that. I had no sexual relations with that woman.
Clearly. So, Fraser's Gunny list. What do you think?
I actually like it. I think pairing him with the Glacier King is good, and I think Dozer and Smig kind of goes without saying. Just with the affinity or bond or whatever it's called with Bjorn. I think it works. I'm not sure. I think really there's lots of different things you can do with it past that point. The War Wagon's pretty solid. If you're bringing Dozer and Smig, you need something to use his Animus on. So I think all things are good. Plus with the two huge bases and Dozer and Smig up the middle, you got a pretty good screen for your softer stuff. And that's a whole lot of wounds and armor and stuff you got to plow through to try and get to your squishy stuff. Plus, you could really lock down a scenario with this list if you do it right, which is highly appealing. So, with the small change to his feet, that could be good, I think. Wow.
I think it's great, and honestly, I think basically being able to posture with this list early by running nearly everything is actually what's going to make or break the potential of this. Like, you could, if you foresaw your opponent being able to shoot a majority of your army off the table turn one, simply feeding and failing a charge forward with Gunbjorn could like make the game, because you could prevent them from shooting your front line of Fire Eaters right away and force them to try and engage in melee, which means running for them most of the time. And then you've got basically safe harbor for all the rest of your list at this point, which means you can run everything, and then next turn you've basically got the run of the scenario because you're able to either charge the enemy, move up into the zone, and be impossible to move out of it if they, if they can't kill your Glacier King, which is also highly difficult. So.
Yes, like with Gunny, I almost see like the Glacier King, War Wagon, and Dozer and Smig as the holy trinity for him that the Maul-Araxer Impaler used to be with Madrak in Mark II. A lot more expensive holy trinity, don't get me wrong, but that always seems like the basis that you should build almost any Gunbjorn list around now, because all three of them play to the maximum, to his strengths.
Furthermore, guns, based on the way that guns operate in the current meta, having a battle group like that and the War Wagon is incredibly strong.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. Whereas for a large amount of the shooting at the moment, because it's basically, at least from what I'm seeing, is two different sorts of metas evolving. One of which is just outright dude spam, and the other one is like a light jack or beast spam. Primarily light jacks with fashions like Signa, who have very cheap but very efficient range pieces. And Gunny deals with both of those very well in their own ways. Explosivo on the Glacier King can make very quick and brutal work out of dude spam, and so does the War Wagon and Dozer from range.
Yeah,
a lot of shooting.
Magical gun on any of those is really, really good. Let's not forget that Explosivo on the War Wagon's specifically great because of the way that it interacts with the spray, right, Mike?
Yep, the spray it works well with. I always find it funniest though, because when opponents sees like AOE's on your list, well, in case of mine, from the Pyrotroll, Dozer and Smig and the War Wagon, the temptation is to spread your men out just big enough that you avoid avoid 3-inch AOE's. But because the Glacier King's Thunderbolt happens before you resolve the attack, the Explosivo blasts, you can actually strategically target models and push them into other guys to then explode.
Yep, getting even more punch on the Glacier King.
Well, I like that it took him this long to get Explosivo to actually work. But
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a weird rule in the past, that's for sure.
Yeah, Explosivo was one of the legacies from Mark II that I imagine they can't be sad to see resigned to a legacy.
oh no, it was from Mark 1. They've been trying to get that going since it first came out on Gorton.
On Gorton, didn't Explosivo first come out on Siege?
I don't remember. One of those two.
It was certainly... Oh, no, now that I think about it, Siege didn't come out until the second book, which means it probably came out at the same time.
He came out in Apotheosis, and I think Merc Warcasters didn't come out until the book after that one. I think the first book, I think you had Ashen Delise, and Magnus was in the first book. There were no Mercasters in Apotheosis.
Interesting.
Suddenly, I'm not feeling nearly as old.
No, let's dash that straight out the window there, Fraser.
Yes, I am the senior I'm the senior of the podcast.
We are still just dealing with people who, basically all of us except for Dan, I think, have been playing since Mark 1. So quite the story time.
Yeah, back in Mark 1, it was you had to have a special kind of mentality to play trolls back in Mark 1, because everything you got sucked, and it was all about trying to make it work. That was pretty much the whole community mindset back then, and that was a lot of fun in its own way.
Yeah, you definitely had to come at it from a different tilt. When Calandra came out, that was the first time I actually got to have a whole lot of fun in Mark 1, because she was so good with beasts, but her feat was ridiculously tilting because it gave us 3-up tough, and like nothing ever died. The games were ridiculous. Like, I mean, I remember distinctly a single model making 20 tough rolls, and like that's some of the stupidness that used to happen in Mark 2, or Mark 1. That was a thing that could happen. Not only that, but she had befuddle, and it was unit wide, so all you had to do was peg a guy in a unit, and then the whole unit got to move and position them 3 inches. Like, it was ridiculousness that used to be in Mark 1. But I digress. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot my list out that I posted for you guys. So it's going to be a Hunter's Grimm list. Now, I know I've been talking about Madrak and Gunny quite a bit, but let's go over this one here. So 75 points. You've got Hunter's Grimm, Mugs and Crumb, Dozer and Smeg and a Blitzer, a War Wagon, the Chronicler, Alden Ashley, Sluggers, full unit, Fenblades, full unit with Officer, and the Dunyanot. Now, the whole guiding purpose behind this is to sort of pair it with Madrak 2, which means it's going to handle the Legion, Signar, Crix, and Menoth matchups that I don't necessarily want. Lots of shooting tech, lots of stuff that's going to deal with low armor, high defense stuff as well, with the pipe plates and the like. And then you've got the feat that'll just alpha heavies off the table if you really want to. And then you've also got the sluggers in there who have a very respectable output, especially when you start to take into account mortality in the mix. So it's a really solid, it's a really solid combined arms, because you've got the punch of the Fenblade, the guns in the list, the ability to buff, and the ability to debuff. So it felt like a very rounded way to play. And then Fen Blades are always good, which is why you see them in so many lists these days. Dallas, what do you think about this list?
I'm impressed that you put sluggers in it, to be honest with you. You're the one that's been lauding how good they are now. So I need you to make sure they work before I try to play them again.
I have them. I actually own a unit. They're sitting on the table, but they're about to get thrown in the bag because this Hunter's Grim list is going to be fun, and I think big work.
I like it against like Legion, maybe Circle, maybe Crix. I mean, I like it against those matchups that seem to be hard for most of our other guys. Yeah, I like it. I don't think I'd change much on it if I was going to play it.
Yeah, it's just got that feel to it, like, you know, if you're a low armor, high defense warcaster, Grimm is a nightmare for you. Like, he will just shoot you all day, and you can't stop him. Furthermore, if that war wagon gets a hill at any point in the game, like, move everything away from your warcaster, because he will just end up killing you if you're not careful. And, you know, Pie Plates just remove Crix infantry from the table like nobody's business. So it's one of those things that I've really thought about and I liked. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I don't see why the war wagon would need a hill. The war wagon's got arcing fire anyway.
Oh, that's true. It would remove the 1-inch disparity that arcing fire has, but you're probably right. It wouldn't really matter. I mean, it would open the field entirely, but, you know.
Yeah, but that said, though, it's a well-rounded list. It's the big challenge I always had with Hunter's Grim in Mark II. Admittedly, probably wouldn't be so much of a problem if I'd played them a lot more. Is order of activation. They're one of the most order of activation complex casters that we have in Trolls. Whereas I like Alton Ashley in the list, whereas that combined with mortality means you can shut down healing on a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a hordes counter too. Now that I think about it, plays hell against a lot of stuff. Furthermore, like even things like Scorn, where their beasts are high armor, like just being able to knock things down and take them out of the battle, or to affect a lot of things around them, is really good. And Alton Ashley just reinforces that.
Yeah, one thing that I like that I thought you might have tried to find room for in the list is two of the what are they bloody called now exactly? The light cavalry solos, the minion one, the scouts.
Yeah, the Afraid.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the
Afraid scouts.
The
really
scouts, good. The Farret scouts, because there's 12 points, but two of them with marksman and armor piercing, reposition 5 with a big movement and range. Pair that up with mortality as well, so that you've also got so that you've basically like your stock armor 18 heavy drops down to armor 9, and then you take another 2 off to take it down to 7. So basically you got straight dice picking columns and then retreating 5 inches away.
It definitely seems good. It's a pretty points efficient module, but it still seems kind of heavy as far as trying to fit it in the list. Where they basically would replace the sluggers if I were to do that. They're roughly the same cost for the full unit. But the sluggers, I feel, because their faction get the benefit a little better, and then they in turn become more accurate, which is sort of why I ended up putting them in there. The Freights, however, have come into consideration when I have been list building for Calandra, so I think there's still hope. And I own 2 of them. People were like, Croak Raiders, Croak Raiders, Croak Raiders, Croak Raiders, and I was like, look at these fucking Afraid Scouts. I'm gonna get some work out of these motherfuckers, and I didn't really get it in Mark II, but in Mark III, they're gonna be terrors.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. Whereas I was a huge fan of the Farret Scouts in Mark II as well, but just like the Highwaymen, not long after they came out, Croak Raiders just simply outshone almost every other range unit in the game. That's been reined in a little bit now, but the Farret Scouts have pretty much come through exactly as they were. So So I'm very much happy with where our Farret Scouts are at, and there are certainly a bunch of lists where you can see that you would take 2 of them. You know, you could have them next to a Glacier King, you know, and they have the concealment, so they're defense 16 while putting out their own range shots.
And they have enough movement that he moves up, they move up entirely, shoot, and move back entirely into the the concealment with the Glacier King. Kind of dumb, just a little bit. All right, so Fraser, what do you think about my Hunter's Grim list?
I'm with Dallas. I love the fact that the Scattergunner is going to see some play because they've been one of those units that I've always wanted to try out, and every time I looked at them, I said,
Sluggers.
no, sorry, Sluggers, yes. I've always wanted to try them out, and then figured, no, I got to put them back. So I'm very excited to see those in the list.
Yeah, they were an interesting piece. I tried them out when they first came out in Mark II, to some good success actually. People really underestimate what you can do when you can run a unit twice when you go first, and then all of a sudden they stand still, and that's, you know, potentially 15 shots going down range at Rat 7 or better and PAL 13 or better. That's a lot of output for not a lot of points, and they were harder to remove before with the 5 wounds they used to have, but now at 1 wound they're pretty appropriately costed, and I think they're going to be pretty interesting. And I plan to take them with me this week, so you'll see if I can get any work out of them. They're also one of those units that operates really well when they have a screen in front of them. So you can choose to either hit infantry, or what I think they're actually designed for is to sort of tee off on lights and heavies once you can apply snipe to them with the Hunter's Grim feat, which is pretty potent if you ask me. So that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to now. So do we have any other lists that we wanted to discuss?
There was one gentleman, I can't remember his name, posted on the TrollbloodScrum for Facebook page about some advice that he was looking for with a Borka 1 list. I've been trying to go through to see if I can find the exact list that he was looking to play around with.
Yeah, throw that into the Facebook chat when you find it, Mike. Always love seeing stuff from the community.
There was also one in the messages, a fellow that's going to a tournament soon, if he didn't go this weekend, that we commented on that might...
Oh, Dallas, what is that happening again this weekend?
Salt City Gladiator Games.
Oh, that. Okay.
That's next weekend.
Excuse me.
This weekend I'm running in a triathlon.
You're a braver man than I.
I don't swim good, so if I can make it through the swim portion without drowning, I'm usually okay.
That's what happens when you have short legs.
Shut up.
All right, here we go. Fraser found it. So it's 75 points. It's Gunny, Bomber Mauler Pyre, Chronicler, Highwayman, full, Champs, full, Stone, full. Ooh, that's ambitious for Gunny. 1 Fire Eater, Min Burrowers. So,
oh, go ahead.
Nope, go right ahead.
Well, so my first advice to him was, if you get burrowers to work, please let me know. Because I would love to see someone try them and actually make them work. There's a guy in my local meta that insists that they're so good because they can stay burrowed. But I have a hard time because they're not going to hit anything. They're not going to hit anything, which is hard. I don't know what else to say. They're way harder to use than they were before, which they were way easy to use before. So, but I feel like the pendulum went from one side to the other instead of settling in the middle somewhere on burrowers. But that'd be the only thing about it. Maybe the max stone isn't necessary because he'll just sit back and shoot anyways.
Yeah, that was the first thing. Not only that, but Gunny doesn't really have the ability to run it at max fury all the time. So, I mean, I guess there's bodies there to get in the way of stuff, but what is it?
I think you minute and fill it, and maybe drop the burrowers for something else.
Yeah, so you can free up 8 points, which is a min unit of 8 points is a min unit of warders.
Or you bring a unit of fire eaters. Like
Another
a chef.
unit of fire raiders actually
Yeah,
seems
like a chef or something. So
yeah, I mean the speed won't be a problem with 3 beasts.
no, I think he's fine there.
He's got a good front line. The champs are gonna be a really good vanguard. Hard to hit on the way in, and you can't target them for a turn. Seems pretty.
Yeah.
God, champs on a charge. What is this dream? So
Only with gun, Bjorn.
Indeed. I mean, I like it. I think that the only thing that jumps out at me again was the stone. Like I just wasn't the. I don't know. The max stone just doesn't seem right. It seems like you could find the points better elsewhere.
Yeah, I also have to agree on that. I think that the max stone, you'd be better off having a minimum stone with the Elder than a max. You'd lose a point of maximum fury range, but you get the utility of being able to ignore continuous effects, strip stealth, or give +1 strength for when your beasts do get into combat. So that I think you get more joy with.
16 instead of 15 is actually a pretty big difference.
Yeah, and he does have a mauler in there as well. So even that bomber is punching away at their power 19 then in that instance.
And it's Mad 6 now. Woo-hoo. Sorry, I had to have a little dance there for troll accuracy.
Yeah, I think the awkward silence said everything about our thoughts on that.
Well, if the webcams didn't give it away. But, I've said dumber things on this podcast, that's for sure.
This is also true.
Fraser, got any thoughts on the list?
I've been too busy looking for other stuff to talk about, so no.
Mike?
Yeah, Fraser, you're on mute.
That's what I meant.
As I said, I've been too busy looking for the next stuff we're going to talk about to think about what you guys are just talking about now. So the short answer is no.
Well, all right then. Let's move on. All right, Dallas, you want to go over the second list that we got here?
Yeah, once I pull it up.
Fraser posted it as well. Looks like his Gavin's list that he was intending to pair with Gunny was Calandra.
Oh, the Calandra list. So, let me see if I can remember it here. I like Calandra. I have a big problem keeping her alive. And I haven't played her in Mark III yet. But I'm hoping I don't have the same problem with her. I don't know. I can keep
I'm looking
keep her
at it
alive.
here, the lists are carbon copy. It seems like he wanted to run one or the other.
I think he was going to use them both, but I'm not sure. I like it better with Calandra. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
The list as it is, I think it's better being run by Calandra than by Gunbjorn.
Well, plus the second list has Fenblades, and a little bit of Highwaymen. Well, they're in the both lists. But
The Highwaymen are the
I
ones
think-
that stand out to me as across the board the most uncomfortable pick there.
I'd change the Highwaymen in the Calandra list.
Yeah.
That'd be my one change, one recommend. I mean the battle group's fine, the stone's fine, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, those are his two lists. That's what I thought.
Yep.
So I think you want to differentiate them a little more if you can, Gav. I like them both. I like the Fenblades a lot more in the Calandra one. I think you drop the Highwaymen and go with something else.
I think you skewed it a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So try and differentiate them more if you can. That way, when you play list chicken and hit people in the tournament, they're not looking at two versions of pretty much the same list, and they only have to think about the different casters.
And one thing that I find that people don't really realize is Calandra actually synergizes really well with range pieces, and if you take something that's a little better than Highwaymen, because, I mean, they're good, but, dare I say, sluggers with rerolls are pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a chance here for you to take pieces like the War Wagon or even the Thumper. The Thumper's fucking fantastic in this list. Like, you've got accurate, rerollable knockdown on a stick. Ooh, good. Like, I feel like you should really you should really sort of find your theme for the list. Like the Gunny list is a very all-comers, a very rounded list, and I think it works really well for what you're trying to do. You really should figure out if you want to take Calandra in like a defense skewy way, or a range skewy way, or in a dude spam skewy way. Because like
and I don't know what he has available. I don't know what his other model choices are. But skew, I think you take them both and you just separate them a little bit more. I think they're both fine with just minor tweaks. And to be perfectly honest with you, we can tell you what to do all day long, but play what you're comfortable with would be my final piece of advice. But yeah, just try and separate those a little bit more in the way they function, so that you bring a little bit more to the table when they have to decide what they're fighting against.
Listen to me though. Go buy Nis Hunters, pin and paint them all in the time between your next tournament, and play those instead. Like that's
Nis Hunters are so hard to put together.
You really don't like him, do you? Like, what did Gav ever do to you to give him an instruction like that?
Yeah, I said my advice would be to go in a little bit of a different direction with Calandra, though. Whereas I actually like Highwayman with Calandra, but to get the most out of them, you have to take Braylon with her as well, because once you can turn around a heavy, and then you've got 12 shots from this minimum Highwayman unit with boosted attack and damage rolls, being able to re-roll 1s and 2s on her feet turn, that minimum unit will take a heavy off the board.
Maybe, yeah, I can see that. Well, they can do it from the relative safety of the side of the board they're safer on, rather than trying to run them up and around. So, I like that.
Seems good. With my experience with the Calandra, I don't like middle-of-the-road lists with her. She takes certain elements of this game and then turns it up to 11, which is kind of her shtick, I guess. It's the thing that she does really well. It's the reason why EE works so well. It's like, hey, you've got such a great volume of attacks and so many wounds and all this. So when you crank the numbers up on like how many attacks your opponent has to make against you successfully to be successful, that's where she starts to swing the game and your opponent can't do anything about it. I mean, same thing said for volume of attacks. So like if you have a bunch of guns and a bunch of extra attacks, she starts to swing and the feat starts to be crazy strong. So cranking it up in any one way will give you a return on investment no matter what.
Sweet.
Indeed. Do we have another list from Facebook? I thought we had at least 3.
There was what I posted when I posted the promo for this, and for those listening, we do record this live every Wednesday. I don't know if we talk about that at all while we're recording, but we record it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. When I posted it, I asked people to put their favorite lists, and there was about 10 lists posted. Of those 10, 5 of them were Gunny lists, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'll run through a couple of ones like the first few. So Simon Smith runs Gunny with a Glacier King and a Mountain King, which I thought was kind of interesting. Whelps, Braylon.
I like that a lot. Just so you know.
A Min Creelstone, the Highwayman, and the Swamp Gobbers. So that was his. Jacob is running Bjorn with 2 Blitzers, Dozer and Smig, a Swamp Troll, and a Slag Troll. Creel Warriors.
I like that too.
As I say, I thought you'd like that one. With Creel Warriors in the standard, Sorcerer, Scattergunners in their standard. And then Roger was doing his Bjorn list with a Bomber, Dozer and Smig, and a Mountain King and a Blitzer. And then with Janessa, and then 2 Thumper Crews, which I thought was an interesting choice. I mean, I would think Gunny would give him giving extra range on those guns would be nice. And then the other one was Bjorn with the Runebearer, Mountain King, Rock, and a Slag Troll with a Fell Collar, Hero, Troll Whelps, Max Stone. Min Stone with the Elder, Fire Eaters, and he apparently went 2-1 at a tournament that weekend. So seems like people are
nice.
There seems to be like not a consistent. Nice to see people mixing it up with the different casters, where everything's always a must take, because there's very few things across that you saw in every single list, which is nice to see.
Well, I got to tell you, here's what I heard that I liked. Every one of them sounded decent. So I like that each one of them could work. Sorry.
I just don't need to hear every breath you take.
Matt, I am your father.
How about every move he makes?
No. Oh God.
Turn this into
I
a
thought
police
about
song.
going there, but I did not. I thought it was safe not to.
But hey, there's somebody definitely watching you. Oh,
Oh.
so terrible.
Right now, there's 7 people on Twitch watching him.
And I'm pretty sure I heard a collective groan right throughout the entire world. So
Good. I'm glad. I hope everybody who listens to this podcast, I hope that hurts your soul.
You're 2 for 2, Matt. This is fantastic.
I know, right? It's like I'm getting funnier by the podcast. This is not a true statement, at any rate. So I think that we're coming to a really good spot as far as trolls are in list building. It's going to be a little while before I get to a tournament, but I have a feeling we're going to make a big splash this year. And this is even before new model releases come out. Like, with what we have, it feels kind of like what happened when Mark II came around. And we were so stoked because everything got so much more powerful, and people were like, holy shit, what the hell is going on with trolls? And so, I don't know, we'll see. I made some changes to my gaming schedule. I should be gaming at least once a week now, at the very least. I'm the only troll player in my very small meta, which means I'm going to be the one who's going to be breaking some hearts, and now I'm going to have to deal with people list dojoing for me. It'll be fun. You know?
Sweet.
I know. The big fish mentality is what it is.
I'm the only troll player in my meta right now, too. So.
well, I'm not even a troll player in my meta at the moment.
Shut up.
What
Shut
do
up.
we have this guy on the podcast for, huh? Like, come on.
Man.
Because you couldn't find anyone else dumb enough in the UK to come on at 3 o'clock in the morning every week?
That's probably right. I don't know. Let's put it out there. Folks, if you're a troll fan and you want to be up really late for a really poor reason, we'll have you on this podcast. Just saying.
Way to sell
We'll
it.
kick Dallas off for an evening. We'll kick Dallas off for an evening, make Mike stay up anyway, and then there'll be 2 British people. One Welsh and whoever else ends up being there, excuse me. And we'll have some personality on the podcast finally.
You just called him a bad name. That was rude.
Well, he could have called me.
French. Oh, sorry.
He muted himself for that.
We better stop. I'm gonna get myself into more trouble.
Is that possible?
That's all right. What podcast would this be if we didn't just evolve into name calling at the end?
I'm just jealous. That's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
because we have actual tartans.
Damn it.
Hey, that's a lot of awkward silence there. Did we lose the rest of our Twitch viewers?
Must have. I mean, I'm Irish by heritage, right? That counts for something, maybe. My last name's Ramsey. That counts something, right?
Hey, me too, buddy. At least we think so.
Something like that, huh? All right. I think we've exhausted our material for the evening. Let's not drag this on for our listeners here.
Oh, poor Dan's got to edit that last part.
It could be worse. I think we should just leave the silence in. Like, that's what I think. All right, Dallas. One last time. Pimp your con.
Pimp my con. Salt City Gladiator Games, June 15th, 16th, 17th. If you're anywhere near the Salt Lake area, come on down. If you buy a tournament ticket, then you get free entry to the con for the day of the tournament you're playing in. So, come on down.
Excelente. All right, gentlemen. On that bombshell, this is
Dan! Look, there's Dan!
There was Dan.
Oh.
And then Dallas interrupted my ending. More work for Dan.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
All right. And on that bombshell, this has been the Scrumcast signing off.